We chose Operative One because at the moment for digital, we didn't have a platform or tool, a planning tool or platform in order to be able to enter our buys cohesively across the network, or across all our offices, and that way it helped have more visibility into what every office was doing. Operative One has helped us with visibility and the tools in order to see what's being purchased, where, and give us more a better avenue for planning and seeing where the opportunities lie.
And we started to access it through like the APIs to start to utilize more of the data that Operative One holds. New to the game, but it's allowing us to do that. I'd recommend Operative One to someone else in the industry who's had similar problems that we had previously, whether it be they're doing a lot of manual work, they have an inbuilt kind of their own system that they've created, which doesn't really make sense anymore. Go buy something that's kind of a standard in the industry. And also for looking at the roadmap, I was lucky enough to speak with Lorne and a few other people yesterday, seeing the roadmap of Operative, and they're doing things that are interesting around convergence, which is a word that actually Lorne has been using for years, but it's actually finally coming to fruition, looking at like how to kind of merge digital TV and advanced TV.
I do feel supported with the Operative team. They definitely held our hand throughout the whole process, the onboarding process. They helped us with the training. It was new to all of us, new to the team. And any questions or even hearing our concerns when we were discussing how to incorporate agency templates or plans into the system as well. And I guess my favorite part is just listening to everyone else's experiences and what they're going through and hearing how they've managed, and that kind of you're not alone in what you're going through.
Our initial problem was that our operation was fully manual, I would say, or semi-manual. So we had the sales within a legacy system that we have, but from that point on, I mean, trafficking, push to ad server, reports, and so on, they were all manual. So that was the initial point of the journey.
Also, one of the original problems we had was inventory management, and when we decided to use Operative, we learned about many other processes that could be more controlled, more automated within the AdOps teams.
So Operative was the opportunity for us to put more discipline, for us to organize roles and responsibilities, so that we have the right task into the right people with the right outcome. So it was not only a software implementation, but it was also an opportunity for us to rethink our processes and redesign them accordingly.
I believe the sales process changed a lot in the past 4 years, because in a way Operative helped us to structure better our products because of our requirement for the workflow, controlling better the discounts. So the salespeople initially had a lot of resistance in order to adapt, but as it was a company decision to have better governance, better maturity on the process, we now look back and know that it was the right path to work with.
We face challenges every day on how to adapt the systems to respond to market needs. So that's what we have been doing. So configuring the system in different ways to observe new processes, new products, new different ways of selling.
I believe Operative helped us to get the process streamlined, but as we are a very traditional media company, still selling mostly directly, we did not had a significant impact on the external way that we sell because of Operative. It was more of an internal change. What I'm seeing today at OPAD and the sessions yesterday is that the future will drive more change when we think about the future of our business. So the new solutions that we are seeing, the change in the infrastructure we're seeing with Operative, it's now making us think more about business models and not fixing what's happening inside the company, but the way that we interact with customers. So it's my first time at OPAD, and I'm really happy that we are having that sort of discussions, because that's what, in the end, will make us succeed in the business.
I think Operative is definitely a partner, and not only for technology, I would say, but as Paris was mentioning, so we are here in an event like OPAD discussing the future of the industry. So Operative has this power of bringing the industry leaders together to discuss their future. So that's what we expect from them, and that's what they have been doing pretty well. So helping the industry to organize themselves and to set their future. So for me, it's not only about technology, but it's also about envisioning the future, you know.
I completely agree that Operative is more than a tech partner, and it's an actual partner. Since the beginning, we had a lot of meetings with other customers that helped us to understand better ways to do what we do, better ways to use Operative product. And what we are seeing since the rebranding and the join with Syntec, it's really discussing about the media market, not only the digital market. And with all the other industry leaders, with all the environment that you guys create in order for us to talk to our peers, to talk to leaders, to talk with companies struggling, it really gives us a lot of insights, and that is being a partner. Is not only having a commercial relationship based on software.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a partnership that a peer from us should have.
We would trust how it helps us to succeed.
What I like from OPAD is the opportunity to be here with the industry leaders, the atmosphere that you guys create, so it's very informal, it's light, it's fun, and it's useful for what we do, so it's challenging, so it makes us think and rethink about what we are doing and what we should do in the future.
Where we discussed product roadmaps, and all the participants asked specific questions and shared their doubts, their pain points, and for me, connecting with other companies in a safe environment for us to discuss the future, the challenges, that is for me the best thing I enjoy about OPAD. Not saying that we are not in a special place, not saying that it's a well-organized event, but connecting to the peers in an environment that is led, discussing the future of the industry is the best thing for me.
3 years ago, I started at Bustle. It's a startup. I was 75th employee, and we had no sort of order management system. We had all our business on Excel spreadsheets. It was very manual. Things could get lost in the cracks. You know, order to cash process was just like kind of just messy. So we just basically didn't have anything. So I had actually used Operative One when I was at Turner, and that's where I became familiar with it. And I just obviously felt a need for to use on Operative One or order management system at Bustle. And we were growing. We were starting. A couple of years, or like a year later, we launched Romper.com, and then like 6 months later, we acquired Elite Daily. So having all these media properties and wanting to measure revenue and just do reporting in general, and have just like an actual process, was the need. Our sales process was seller emails our IO alias to myself, which goes to myself and my counterpart that manages our account management team. And essentially we get the IO, and my ops team enters the media products into it. We have a combination of media and display or branding content lines on every IO. So marketing would like somehow get the line items in a Google spreadsheet that the account manager would enter, and like so ops would reference CIO, and when they're doing trafficking and billing, marketing would reference this Google Doc when they were like driving views, branding content, and then ops would pull reporting manually at the end of the month for billing, and get numbers from marketing, and kind of took this like 8-day to 10-day process to get billing done. So Operative One has helped my team because we have a very clear process in place now of who does what. So my planners enter the plan in Operative One, so I think that it makes them accountable for the plan that they sold or their seller sold. Then ops basically takes it over, or they take over the display parts, and they get obviously pushed into DFP, and then my marketing team who manages the views, all of those lines are in Operative One now, not in outer space on a Google Doc, and can manage those views, and billing is like so much better and easier. So anyway, so yeah, planner to ops to split between ops and marketing, and then ops essentially does the billing, and then finance kind of goes in and exports all the delivery for invoicing. So it's very straightforward. It's so much easier. Also, we never really had a source of truth when it came to IOs, because we had IOs and we had media plans that had like the more detail on from the IO, and it just kind of like information was kind of a lot of different places. So Operative One was where all the line items were, details about them for every single everything that was contracted. So that's also helped. Honestly, it just made my life easier. Also, billing just made it so much easier, and I think that was my pain point, just because it took so long. It was super manual, a lot of errors, and so if somebody was just struggling with billing or process or something like that, it'd definitely be something I would recommend. Anytime I have issues, my account manager reaches out, make sure, if we have a call, that week, she'll make sure the appropriate people are on the call so they can, talk through my issue and try to solve it. So, even through the whole project management process of getting Operative One in place, I felt super supported. I always had somebody to talk to. Great people, really learned about what my needs were and our site, and just kind of products and everything, and so they could really help solve our problems. And I just felt like they really took the time to learn about our business, learn about how we set up things in DFP, and then they could address them and help us set it all up in Operative One. It was the billing. Yeah, it just being able to, so we stack. Being able to just plug all that data in from Stack into Operative One, and it just manually is done, and is 360, 180, I guess I should say, improvement. We would spend days just correcting reports that were had manual errors, and sending updated invoices 30 days later. So it's this whole time period of when you're getting paid is delayed even longer. And so I think it's really, the billing is the #1 improvement that we've experienced, from time to accuracy to just simplifying it. But I think that having everyone using the same platform together in a room, and obviously it's pretty much the entire flow of your business, and it's super important just to hear what other people do, how they use it, has been valuable to me. You get to talk to people, learn how they use the platform. I'm trying to think, if there's anyone I know that I could suggest it to, but I definitely would, and you guys pick really great locations. The onboarding process, I know, can be kind of tricky sometimes, but I just felt like ours was really smooth. So that's something else to point out. Another really good experience for me. Oh. The three people that worked with me from Operative One just took the time to learn about our business, our DFP setup, how we sell things, how they could solve problems if the platform didn't normally do what we needed to do.
Before we installed Connect and started down the pathway from Connect, some of our biggest challenges were communicating all of the details on insertion orders down to our publishers, and then getting them to easily and quickly respond back to us, whether it's to accept the insertion order or make modifications. The biggest challenge we were running into before Connect, because we're not connected to an ad server, was getting first-party data back. The best part about Connect initially, in addition to the insertion order communication, is being able to go ahead and get their first-party data back so we can check the pacing of all of the insertion orders. I think we ultimately chose Connect because we are a standalone instance of Operative One, and as I mentioned before, we're not connected to individual publisher ad servers. And so we were always relying on them to give us information on max avails, whatever their taxonomy was, and sometimes we didn't necessarily put them into our system consistently. So we decided to choose Connect first and foremost so we could connect to them and have that electronic pathway between us and our publishers. The second is because a number of our publishers are also Operative One customers. We collectively sell top premium digital advertising, so we work with programmers and MVPDs in order to sell insertion orders or in order to sell products that are video oriented, and many of our customers are already using Operative One as their base of operations for their publishing businesses. There are a number of different ways that it is improved, but I think the biggest way first and foremost was for us to use the exact same taxonomy as all of our publishers. Our sales and operations process before Connect was really predicated on the design and the applications that sold linear and traditional media. And so we were trying to push that into our Operative One instance. When we finally got Connect, we got to see on the other side how our publishers built out their taxonomy, talked about workflow processes, and most importantly, how we were able to go ahead and exchange data like first-party information on our IOs. So it really helped us move away from thinking of our digital business as just a modified linear business, and actually allowed us to have that conversation using a structured, let's call language, in the Connect platform so that we could trade the IOs back and forth without necessarily creating structures from linear and trying to push them into the digital platform of Operative One. Once we went down the pathway with Connect, we have found an incredible improvement in our relationship with the publishers, because for the first time we were sitting around the table speaking a language that was the same. Previously, it was almost like we were talking two different languages, and the way that we put in an insertion order into our Operative One instance was literally different than the way that they put it into their instance, because what we were doing was basically taking our IO and then emailing it back to them for them to go ahead and either import or type that in. When we went to Connect, it was as if we were seeing the exact same thing from two different angles. In addition to improving the communications and the relationship with current publishers, Connect allowed us to go ahead and onboard a new publisher who was going on to Operative One right away. So instead of trying to figure out the nomenclature and the taxonomy between two different Operative One instances, we both stood up our instances to represent their inventory and their taxonomy in the exact same way that they did instantaneously. And it really helped us go from basically 0 to 60 in a much quicker time frame than if we would have not been using Connect. I would definitely recommend Connect to an industry peer for two reasons. First, because we're all in a relationship, and mostly because we represent publishers, most of my industry peers are publishers, and that will allow us to go ahead and represent their products and their digital campaigns more seamlessly. The second reason I would recommend Connect is because the more people who participate in building this thing out, and the more of us who are in there managing our business through Connect, the better that we're going to be able to represent premium video advertising inside of the advertising community and among all of the publishers who want to kind of move into this space. My favorite part, single favorite part of op-ed, now having gone to it 3 years in a row, is the fact that we're bringing all of my industry peers and the leaders within the industry for specific publishers or people who represent those publishers. And we get an opportunity to talk about the capabilities that we have and how we can make it better. That would be the single best part about it. The other part about it is that we're not just sitting here in op-ed and talking to ourselves or talking to our peers inside an isolated bubble. We're bringing in outside thinkers, so people from Morgan Stanley as an example, Forrester, giving us insights on where the industry is evolving, how we can fit into there more effectively, and more importantly, how we can work together to make sure that we build the future. When you attend op-ed, you create those connections to people that you see face to face, whether it's at a session, at a meal, or over drinks, and you know that you can always contact them via phone or Skype or email and be able to go ahead and, once you've broken down those barriers, feel comfortable having a discussion about what they're doing, what you could do, or the problems that both or either of you are facing. As we leave op-ed, I feel like I and my team are able to go ahead and face the next 12 months, understanding where most of the industry is going and getting background on some perspectives, like I said earlier, that are brought to this conference from other people like Forrester and Morgan Stanley, so that we can walk out there with confidence, understanding a little bit more or a lot more about where digital is going, and especially where premium digital video advertising is going.
We originally chose Operative One because we found ourselves managing a surprisingly complex digital business using a lot of manual processes. So we had a what I would call a complicated ad product catalog, and we needed something to be able to kind of store and manage that, and Operative One seemed to be a clear choice.
I think as part of the Operative One process, we brought those guys inside of the general campaign management process, pulled them away from the sales, under the sales organization, so it became more of a operational role, and it helped us streamline, as Bill said, part of the product mappings, but also understanding what the product catalog was, how to do planning, how to do planning and product management against the deals. I think from a standpoint of how it changed after we implemented Operative One, I think the product mapping between the ad servers and Operative One is probably tenfold what it was before. It's certainly, I think, at first it advanced how we complicated some of the products, but then we found a way to dial it back between the two ad servers that we were using at the time. I also think it streamlined upstream the pipeline management and what the executive teams could see versus where we were previous to implementing Operative One.
I'd recommend Operative One to an industry peer. I think that it is I call it a core system. I'm actually usually surprised when people tell me that they're not on the Operative One platform. My first question is, you know, who else has the capabilities that Operative has presented itself? Our business, it wouldn't shut down, but it would become immensely difficult tomorrow if Operative One went away. So it's an easy group to work with. It's a very capable platform, and it is critical to us operating our business efficiently.
So I think we took a hard look at what we had, tried to clean up what we had, and then designed and implemented that in the Operative One process and cross-mapped it against the ad platforms. Fairly straightforward. I think the Operative team was heavily involved with us. We were very happy with it, and frankly I thought it went very smoothly.
I view Operative as an industry partner. I think that if you look at the vendors / partners that we work with, many of them are competitors. I think Operative is maybe not unique in this, but they do kind of separate themselves in that their entire business exists to enable publishers to operate efficiently, monetize their properties effectively, and advance ourselves as an industry. They are an organization that is always asking, I think, important questions and getting people in the room that can actually solve the problems. We always enjoy attending this conference because it's a place where we can do that.
Great. Sounds good.
I think from my perspective, the biggest improvement, when we mapped the products across ad platform, the amount of error rate that was occurring on the trafficking team went down because we were actually able to map a lot of the targeting attributes in an automated way, so the campaign error rate and how they're supposed to be targeted dramatically decreased. delivery dramatically improved. I would say it brings the industry together in a couple of ways, certainly from a networking perspective. The exposure that you have to other people, other peer sets that are in the business. Some of them are more advanced than you are, some of them not so much. But I think what it does is it exposes you to different ideas and different ways of doing things.
Yeah, OpEd's a really neat event in that everybody that's here is either a customer user or prospective customer user. We're all effectively trying to do the same thing and operate similar businesses, but we have very different approaches. So it's just it's an interesting place to kind of get everybody together and talk about new ideas and again how to advance the business. Again, OpEd's one of my favorite shows of the year. It's just a great place to get together with people that are peers, competitors in your industry, and talk about neat ideas, usually in great locations. It's always been a fun event.
Yeah, I think the operative crew is great to deal with. Always very warm and welcoming.
So I think what OpEd offers is the ability to talk with our peers, and our peers both in what might be heritage and where we might be going in the future. So it does have that opportunity. The level of people that I've met here are senior executives who seem to be in the know, or at least know what the questions are. So I would recommend it as a meeting place to establish another level of continuity in our community. It creates a closeness, and again I repeat, community, because technology is terrific, but if you don't have the people who are interfacing with the advertising agencies and the marketers, you're missing something. So if we can all kind of find a common language, not standards, but a common language. And by the way, I feel very strongly, always date before you marry. Do not create standards until you've dated for a while, experiment with them, and then get best in class. And that's what you do through a community to evolve. Another important aspect that I think that OpEd and certainly Operative are evolving is not only the technology end, but this idea of universality. So that as we're plugging in different technologies in terms of workflow, we have to now plug in different data infusion type of companies, because every platform out there seems to have their own data. Every agency has their own data. Recently I did a tally of all the advanced television platforms. So you have the programmatic TV, addressable TV, contextual audience networks, and they now have 64 different data sources. So if you figure that the agencies can only afford some, the marketers can afford others, the people that are selling their programming that want to enhance, that's quite a bit. So we need some open system that allows for all these changes. So I think that's very important for us to look at for the future. And I think next year for OpEd, there will be more of those type of companies invited to talk about those situations. Also, I think that OpEd stresses cross-platform. So how is it through technology we're going to connect everything to make our marketing messages get to the consumer? How are we going to figure out where they are? And I think that's what this conference is about.
So what I think makes OpEd stand out different than all the other conferences, and as a person who literally goes to conferences every week and makes my living by conference attendance, it is a subject about which I know a thing or two. So what I think OpEd does especially well is that it's, first of all, it's not only about operative, about industry, topics that are affecting the industry, and that's much more important because then it makes it useful to the attendee. Attendees don't want to come and have things pitched at them. They don't want people standing on the dais or on the stage explaining why they should be using this and why they shouldn't be doing other. So people are actually talking about topics that affect people's lives. As far as the the speakers and the moderators themselves go, these are people that are coming from the most influential industries, the most notable names within the industry. I mean, every single person that goes up on the stage is representing an incredibly large media company that's far-reaching across. I mean, really the most important names in the industry. And then you have interesting moderators that are, that obviously are, in addition to being dynamic, which makes the content more compelling for the audience, know about which they speak. And that's a very difficult thing to do. Help people interact with one another by providing opportunities for them, both at the show itself, meaning breakouts and things like that, but also at night where you send people into rooms, dining rooms, and have them interact. Those are the characteristics that anybody that's coming to any show should be looking for, and what I think op-ed does especially well. So the reason that networking opportunities here are better is because of the quality of the attendee. It comes down to one thing and one thing only, right? And so when you are able to, through the content, have that cascade effect where people come to your show because they know that it's going to be an interesting show, where they're going to derive useful things for their everyday lives, you're going to bring out high-level people from major organizations. And then by definition and extension, the network is going to be good because you have experienced people that are carrying on meaningful discussions that are impacting the way they do their jobs. And that's what the importance of networking is. All networking events at op-ed literally happen because you're put into a room and encouraged, gently encouraged, to interact with other people. And the quality of the people with whom you're interacting is very high. The reason it's high is because those people are actually coming out for shows like op-ed, where they're staying away from the other conferences, sending more junior people in their stead, junior people being less experienced and less interested in the covenant of these conferences, where you have high-level people coming, understanding the covenant that they have, and having meaningful discussions with people. And that's the brass ring for networking in any event, this conference included. So I think what makes op-ed particularly special is that you've got people with these amazing affiliations, the biggest media companies on earth, that are dealing with real problems and real challenges, trying to solve for these things in this very complex environment, speaking very openly and speaking very candidly about these challenges that they're trying to solve. And they are hands-on switches people that are really dealing with these things on a daily basis. And they're not the exact same crew that you've come accustomed to seeing and no longer want to see. This is a new group of people from the same organizations talking about new topics in different ways. That's what makes all the difference in the world and keeps me out of the hallway and in the auditorium and actually at the event rather than wandering off somewhere else. Why I think op-ed is kind of the perfect show is because it ticks all the important boxes of what makes conferences great. And it's just the right amount of time. The second thing is its size. It's the exact right size. It's big enough to be meaningful, but still retains its sort of intimacy and allows people to interact with one another. I think the content is absolutely top-notch. I think people are talking about subjects that people want to learn more about. It's creating discussions that are leaving the auditorium and going into the hallways and going into the meals afterwards. The topics that were being brought up in the morning are being discussed throughout the day. People are digging into those topics and will take those topics home and discuss them with their coworkers and colleagues. The people all seem to be genuinely happy to be here. If that has something to do with the venue and the city, all of those things are fine. But you just feel like, there's a palpable positive vibe around it. People are clearly enjoying the conference, they're enjoying the content, they're enjoying the networking. And so it really just sort of becomes the perfect conference to attend, and that's why I've been here. This is my fourth straight, 4 out of 5.
I can't think of any other tool that serves to aggregate direct and programmatic data quite as well as Operative Compete. It is platform agnostic, and so for a digital publisher, it doesn't matter what partners you're working with. There isn't really any other product where you can pipe in any type of demand source and have it be portrayed in an elegant fashion, but also in a completely agnostic fashion. And so what you're able to do as a digital publisher is say to yourself, I no longer want to spend X amount of dollars for several ad ops analysts to pull reports day after day. It aggregates into this dashboard, and suddenly you're able to see in basically real time how your CPMs are doing by revenue channel, by ad unit, by ad size on the fly. And so it's really fantastic in that way. And in order to really be able to look at your revenue generation in a holistic fashion, you're going to need to compete in order to see what's going on in those programmatic revenue channels. And I can't think of any other solution that's really going to do it as well as that, because a lot of digital publishers are already using Op1. It lives in the same ecosystem. On top of that, you can use the Operative One data feed, which will include the compete data, and you can throw it into a BI tool, and you could derive some really meaningful insights from that. And to me, in many ways, Op1 plus Operative Compete is sort of like the celestial dashboard for digital publishers. It really has everything you need. So one of the great things about Compete is that it comes with a certain amount of service hours, and you get support from a team that helps you on a daily or weekly basis in case things change. The ad tech industry is incredibly complicated. It's changing on almost a daily basis, certainly on a monthly basis. If you look at the ad tech industry just 6 months ago, it's going to be a little bit different than it is today. And Compete helps with that because Operative has some of the best ad ops experts in the industry. Operative sets itself apart by being agnostic to what you have within your ad tech stack. Of course, we recognize Facebook and Google as kind of like the two owners of this ad tech duopoly right now, and a lot of the revenue is going there. But having your system flow through Operative technology allows you to pick and choose what you want. And so because of that, you're not forced to really play by all of the rules that maybe Google sets or Facebook sets. And so you can really customize your portfolio of partners, and you'll inevitably need them. You get to choose those to your liking, and really kind of the way that is optimal to your organization. I really like my experience at OpEd so far, and I think what has stood out the most is just how collaborative all of the folks in the industry are when they get together. There are publishers from all sorts of different verticals here, but really what they're doing is they're putting their heads down and they're trying to tackle industry problems. The quality of speakers have been great. In ad tech, a lot of the times people just kind of have their nose down and they're working. And it's nice to hear people's thoughts and opinions when they can finally come up for air. And that's really what it's all about here, I've noticed, is hearing the opinions of people that are very well respected, that are experts in their fields. And it is a really complicated, fast-changing industry. And everyone that I've spoken to today had fantastic insights. They don't all necessarily align, but therein lies the value, is you get the whole gamut of what's going on. And you are free to decide kind of how you internalize that information and set it forth within where you work.
So based on my experience, the OpEd conference is particularly valuable because it is bringing together very different kinds of companies, very different kinds of publishers and media companies, which to me means solving a diversity of problems, not simply solving a certain kind of problem. It's also helpful because I am a person who's always been on the buy side, agency, representing marketers, and having a glimpse inside the kind of minds of the biggest media companies in the world is enormously helpful for me. I think, so in terms of the mix of folks that are attending the conference and creating conversation among them, I have found it pretty easy, in part because the event itself is serious in terms of subject matter, but lighthearted in approach, which basically means we can tell the truth, we can laugh, we can make it fun, and I think that just makes everybody feel more human and less guarded. And it feels relatively intimate, even though it's a decent sized group, there is a sense of intimacy and shared problems, I think, among this group of publishers. So in terms of content for the conference, what I think has been interesting is the approach of let's start big and set the tone for what the kind of big trends are, what the big problems are, where the industry may be going, and then focusing and kind of getting smaller and smaller in aperture. And smaller doesn't mean less important, it means kind of more specific and more tangible and more actionable. So I loved starting with Omar Sheikh, who's thinking, at the highest level about kind of massive trends. The panel that we did where we really started to focus a little bit on, what are your challenges as Disney, ABC, where you are so heavily invested in video content, versus Scripps, who has a very different mix, versus Vivo, who is essentially a digital publisher. But in the structure of the conversation, it was about the solution. problem, solution. Really tangible stuff that I think everybody's really hungry for. So I've liked the flow. Publishers, are sort of fighting for their lives as content creation companies supported by advertising, and huge organizations, big brands, are struggling to grow. So advertising has an enormously important place in this industry for consumers, publishers, and advertisers, but how do we get to a place where it's healthy? And that's where we need to have tough conversations about what great advertising looks like, what is a great environment for advertising to appear in, which is what's so important for publishers.